If you have ever lived in a village where everyone knows your name, your family, and even the hour you wake up each morning, then you will understand that shame does not travel alone. It comes with whispers, with pointing fingers, and with a reputation that sticks to your skin like palm oil. That was the kind of village Yumri was. And that was the kind of shame Amara was drowning in. But what the people did not know, what they could never imagine, was that Amara was not choosing her disgrace. She was being devoured by it. The night was cold and the moon hid behind thick clouds when the men of Yumri dragged Amara out of Okoro's hut. She was trembling, her wrapper loose around her waist, her eyes wild and red like someone who had seen death itself. The men shouted at her. The women cursed her. Children peeped from behind their mothers, wondering what kind of woman this was. Amara fell to her knees in the sand, breathing hard, whispering the same words over and over. If only you knew why I must do this. The crowd laughed bitterly. Some spat at her feet. But then Amara screamed, a sharp painful scream, and turned her head as if something terrible was standing right behind the crowd. Her eyes grew wide with terror. And in that moment, a deep growl echoed through the air. But strangely, only Amara heard it. The villagers froze, confused and uncomfortable. 3 months earlier, the village of Yumri was peaceful and ordinary. Farmers went to their farms. Women sold their goods at the market. Children played by the stream. Then one afternoon, a stranger arrived. His name was Okonkwo the healer, and he came with a wooden box full of herbs, carved charms, and bottles of dark oils. He wore white robes and walked with a staff that had bells tied to the top. The bells chimed softly as he moved. People gathered around him immediately. He spoke with a calm and powerful voice, telling them he had been sent by the ancestors to bless Yumri. Within days, he healed a sick child who had been coughing blood for weeks. He predicted rain, and it came that same evening. The villagers began to trust him completely. They brought him yams, palm wine, and gifts. But while everyone celebrated, Okonkwo stood at the edge of the village square one evening, watching a young woman walk past with a water pot on her head. Her name was Amara. And Okonkwo smiled, a slow knowing smile, as if he had been waiting for her all along. Amara was known in Yumri as a gentle girl with a kind heart. She helped her neighbors, respected the elders, and took care of her sick mother who had been bedridden for months. Her mother's sickness was strange. No medicine worked. No prayer seemed to reach her. Amara was desperate. So when she heard about Okonkwo the healer, she carried her mother on her back and brought her to his compound. Okonkwo examined the old woman carefully, touching her forehead, her wrists, and her chest. Then he nodded slowly. "Your mother is being attacked by jealous spirits," he said. "But I can help her." He reached into his wooden box and pulled out a carved bracelet made of black wood and red beads. It looked ancient and heavy. "Wear this," he told Amara. "It is blessed by the ancestors. It will protect your household. But you must never remove it. Never." Amara thanked him with tears in her eyes and placed the bracelet on her wrist. The villagers clapped and praised Okonkwo's power. That night, Amara's mother breathed easier. But as Amara lay down to sleep, the bracelet began to burn against her skin like hot iron. Amara woke up gasping for air. Her room was dark and silent, but something was wrong. She could feel it in her bones. The bracelet on her wrist was no longer just warm. It was glowing faintly, pulsing like a heartbeat. And then she heard it. A voice. Low, raspy, and cold like wind through a graveyard. "Feed me," it whispered near her ear. Amara sat up quickly, looking around the room. There was no one there. Her mother was asleep in the corner. The door was closed. But the voice came again, closer this time, as if it was inside her head. "Feed me, or lose everything you love." Amara's heart pounded in her chest. She tried to pull the bracelet off, but it would not move. It was stuck to her skin like it had grown into her flesh. Panic rose in her throat. She opened her mouth to scream, but before any sound could come out, she felt it. invisible cold hands wrapping around her throat, squeezing slowly, cutting off her breath. Her vision blurred. And then, just as suddenly as it started, the hands released her. The voice laughed softly in the darkness. The next morning, Amara's mother woke up coughing violently. Her body shook and her lips turned blue. Amara rushed to her side, terrified. "Mama! Mama, please breathe!" But her mother's eyes rolled back, and her chest stopped moving. Amara screamed for help, but no one came. The voice returned, calm and cruel. "Touch a man before sunrise," it said. "Or she dies forever." Amara's hands trembled. She did not understand. Touch a man? What kind of madness was this? But as she held her mother's lifeless hand, the bracelet burned hotter, and the voice hissed again. "Obey." Tears poured down Amara's face. She had no time to think, no time to question. She ran outside, her mind spinning, and found a young farmer named Chitty walking past her compound. She grabbed his arm desperately and pulled him inside. Confused and surprised, Chitty followed. Within moments, something dark and unnatural took over Amara's body. When it was done, Chitty left quietly, shaken but alive. Amara collapsed on the floor, sobbing. And then her mother gasped, her chest rising and falling again. The spirit whispered one last time. "Now you understand." The days that followed were a nightmare Amara could not wake up from. She tried to pretend everything was normal, but guilt ate at her like termites in wood. Chitty, the young farmer, avoided her completely. When she saw him at the market, he looked away quickly, his face pale and tired. Amara wanted to explain, to tell him she had no choice, but how could she? Who would believe her? And then she noticed something that made her blood run cold. When Chitty bent down to pick up a yam, his shirt lifted slightly, and she saw them. Faint claw marks on his back. 3 long scratches, red and fresh, as if something with sharp nails had dragged across his skin. But Amara had not touched his back. She had not scratched him. So where did those marks come from? That night, the voice returned, laughing softly inside the bracelet. "You see now," it said. "You are not alone in this. I am always with you. Always feeding." It did not take long for the village to start talking. Women whispered at the market. Men exchanged glances at the village square. "Did you hear about Amara?" one woman said. "She was seen with Chitty in her compound." Another woman clicked her tongue. "That girl has changed. Something is not right with her." The elders frowned when they heard the rumors. Even Amara's own friends began to avoid her. She felt the weight of their judgment everywhere she went. And the spirit? The spirit fed on it. "Let them talk," it whispered to her at night. "Your shame makes me stronger. Your pain makes me grow." Amara tried to fight it. She tried to pray, to beg the ancestors for mercy, but every time she closed her eyes, she saw the bracelet glowing brighter. One evening, as she sat alone in her compound, she heard it again. The spirit's laughter. It was not just in her head anymore. It was coming from the bracelet itself, echoing softly like the sound of bells in the wind. Desperate for answers, Amara went to see Okonko the healer. She found him sitting outside his compound, grinding herbs in a wooden bowl. He looked up at her and smiled warmly, as if nothing was wrong. "Amara," he said gently. "You look troubled. What is the matter?" Amara hesitated, then spoke quickly. "The bracelet you gave me, something is wrong with it. I hear voices. I feel things. Please, you have to help me remove it." Okonko's smile did not fade, but his eyes changed. They grew cold and sharp, like the eyes of a snake watching its prey. "The bracelet cannot be removed," he said calmly. "It is protecting you. The voices you hear are just spirits testing your faith." Amara shook her head. "No. It is more than that. It is controlling me. It is making me do things I do not want to do." For a moment, Okonko said nothing. Then he leaned forward slightly, and his voice dropped to a whisper. then you should obey it. Amara's breath caught in her throat. Before she could respond, Okonkwo's eyes flashed unnaturally, glowing faint red for just a second. Amara stumbled backward, her heart pounding. Okonkwo already knew everything. And he wanted her silent. Amara could not keep the secret any longer. She went to her closest friend, a girl named Adana, and told her everything. The bracelet. The voice. The demands. The invisible hands. But as Amara spoke, Adana's face changed from concern to fear to doubt. Amara, Adana said slowly, are you feeling well? Maybe you need rest. Maybe the stress of caring for your mother is making you imagine things. Amara grabbed her friend's hand. I am not imagining it. It is real. The spirit is real. But Adana pulled her hand away and stepped back. I think you should see the elders, she said quietly. They can help you. By the next day, the whole village knew. Amara was losing her mind. People stared at her with pity and suspicion. Children ran away when she walked past. And that night, the spirit appeared in her dream. It dragged her through fire, laughing as she screamed, whispering over and over. No one will believe you. No one will save you. You are mine. The spirit's demands grew stronger. It no longer wanted just any man. It wanted men with power, men with influence, men whose life force was richer and more satisfying. Bring me the chief's son, the voice commanded one night. Or your mother dies. Slowly. Painfully. Amara tried to run. She packed a small bag and walked toward the edge of the village at midnight, determined to escape. But as she reached the boundary, her legs froze. She could not move. Her body would not obey her. Slowly, against her will, her legs turned around and began walking back toward the village. Amara screamed inside her mind, but her mouth would not open. The spirit was in full control now. It walked her body back to her compound, sat her down on her mat, and whispered in her ear. You cannot run from me. I am inside you. I am part of you. And if you try to leave again, I will kill everyone you love. Amara wept silently, her body no longer her own. The chief's son was named Obina, a proud and handsome young man loved by everyone in the village. The spirit forced Amara to approach him at the village well one afternoon. She did not want to. She fought with every piece of strength she had left. But the spirit controlled her voice, her smile, her movements. Obina was charmed immediately. By evening, he had followed her to her compound. When it was over, Obina collapsed on the floor, his body weak and trembling. Amara tried to help him, but the spirit would not let her. She watched in horror as Obina crawled out of her compound, barely able to stand. The next morning, the chief summoned his diviner, a man known for seeing hidden things. The diviner walked around the village square, chanting and throwing cowrie shells. Finally, he stopped and pointed toward Amara's compound. There is a dark presence, he said. Something unnatural is tied to that house. The chief's eyes narrowed. Bring her to me, he ordered. Amara woke up one morning to find strange markings painted around her compound. They were geometric patterns, symbols she had never seen before, drawn in white chalk and red clay. Her mother screamed when she saw them. Neighbors gathered, whispering fearfully. Witchcraft, one man said. She has brought witchcraft into Yumri. Amara tried to wash the markings away, but they would not come off. They seemed to glow faintly in the sunlight. And then she remembered something. Months ago, when Okonkwo the healer first arrived, she had seen a wooden box in his compound. It was covered in carvings. And those carvings looked exactly like the markings now surrounding her house. Amara's heart sank. Okonkwo was behind this. He had always been behind this. But how could she prove it? Who would believe her now? The elders summoned Amara to the village square. They sat in a circle, their faces stern and unforgiving. The chief spoke first. Amara, daughter of Nwosu, you stand accused of bringing shame and dark spirits into this village. Speak. Defend yourself. Amara opened her mouth to explain, but the moment she tried to speak, her throat closed. The bracelet burned hot against her wrist, and the spirit choked her from the inside. She gasped for air, clutching her neck, her eyes wide with terror. The elders watched in shock as Amara fell to the ground, convulsing. And then, from the back of the crowd, Okonkwo stepped forward. "Elders," he said calmly, "this girl is possessed. But I can help her. Let me perform a cleansing ritual. I will drive out whatever darkness has taken hold of her." The elders looked at each other and nodded. They trusted Okonkwo. Everyone did. Amara wanted to scream, to warn them, but she could not. She could only watch as Okonkwo smiled down at her, his eyes gleaming with triumph. Okonkwo performed the ritual in front of the entire village. He danced, chanted, poured water over Amara's head, and waved burning herbs around her body. The villagers watched in awe. Finally, Okonkwo declared loudly, "The spirit has been cast out. Amara is free." The crowd cheered. The elders praised him. Amara's mother wept with relief. For a moment, Amara felt hope. Maybe it was over. Maybe she was finally free. But that night, as she lay in her bed, the bracelet tightened around her wrist like a living snake. The spirit's laughter echoed louder than ever before. "Did you really think it would be that easy?" it hissed. "I am not gone. I am stronger now. And you will never escape me." Amara closed her eyes and wept silently into her mat. Late one night, an old woman named Mama Nina came to Amara's compound. She moved quietly, like a shadow, and knocked softly on the door. Amara opened it cautiously. Mama Nina was known in the village as a woman who knew things, old things, things the elders had forgotten. She stepped inside and looked at the bracelet on Amara's wrist. Her face went pale. "I have seen that bracelet before," Mama Nina whispered. "Many years ago. On a young girl who died mysteriously. Her body was found by the river, drained of all life." Amara's hands trembled. "What is it? What is this thing on my wrist?" Mama Nina's voice was low and serious. "It is the vessel of a spirit called Unio. A parasite spirit. It feeds on shame, on secrets, on stolen life force. And the one who gave it to you, he is not a healer. He is a sorcerer." Amara felt her world collapse. "How do I stop it?" Mama Nina looked at her with sad eyes. "I do not know yet. But I will find out. Do not lose hope, child." And with that, she disappeared into the night. The next morning, the village woke to terrible news. Chitty, the young farmer, had been found dead in his compound. His body was cold and stiff, his eyes wide open, his skin pale as if all the blood had been drained from him. The villagers were horrified. The elders called for an emergency meeting. Amara stood at the back of the crowd, trembling. She knew. She knew the spirit had done this. Unio was growing stronger. And it was feeding on the men she had been forced to touch. That night, the voice returned, more demanding than before. "More," it whispered. "I need more. Feed me more, or everyone in this village will die like him." Amara fell to her knees, sobbing. "Please," she begged. "Please stop. I cannot do this anymore." But the spirit only laughed. "You have no choice. You never did." Mama Nina returned with an old scroll, yellowed and fragile. She unrolled it carefully and showed Amara the writings. They were in an ancient language, but Mama Nina translated. "Unio is a parasitic spirit," she read, "used by sorcerers to steal life force through shame and disgrace. The vessel is a bracelet carved from cursed wood. The spirit feeds through intimacy, draining vitality from victims while binding the host in spiritual chains." Amara listened, her heart pounding. Mama Nina continued. "There is more. It says here that a sorcerer from generations past used Unio to extend his life. His name was..." She paused, her eyes widening. "His name was Okonkwo." Amara's breath caught. The same name? Mama Nina nodded grimly. This is no coincidence, child. The man in our village is either a descendant or the same spirit reborn. He has been hunting for someone to carry Unio again. And he chose you. Amara decided she needed to see for herself. One night, she followed Okonkwo quietly through the village. He walked past the farms, past the river, and into the forest where no one went. Amara hid behind trees, watching. Okonkwo stopped at a small clearing and knelt down. From under a pile of leaves, he pulled out a large calabash. He opened it, and a faint green glow rose from inside. Amara watched in horror as Okonkwo began chanting, and the glow grew brighter. She realized what she was seeing. The life force. The energy stolen from the men. He was collecting it, feeding on it, using it to make himself stronger and younger. Okonkwo closed the calabash and stood up. Then, without turning around, he spoke. I know you are there, Amara. Her blood went cold. Okonkwo turned slowly and looked directly at her hiding spot. He smiled. Did you really think you could spy on me? You belong to me now. You and Unio are mine. Amara ran, her heart pounding, but his laughter followed her through the trees. Amara knew she could not stay in the village any longer. She went to Mama Nina and begged her. We have to leave. Tonight. He knows I am onto him. Mama Nina agreed. They packed quickly and began walking toward the next village. But as they reached the forest path, Amara's body froze again. Her legs refused to move. Unio was stopping her. You cannot leave, the spirit hissed. I will not allow it. Amara's body began to turn back toward Yumri. But Mama Nina grabbed her arm and dragged her forward with all her strength. Unio could not control Mama Nina. The old woman had protected herself with prayers and herbs. She pulled Amara through the forest, fighting against the invisible force. Finally, they reached Mama Nina's secret hut deep in the bush. Amara collapsed on the floor, gasping. Thank you, she whispered. Mama Nina knelt beside her. Do not thank me yet. I have something that can weaken Unio. But it will only work for one night. And after that, you must face him. Mama Nina prepared a bitter herb, grinding it into a dark paste. She rubbed it on Amara's wrist, over the bracelet, and forced her to drink the rest. Amara gagged, the taste like poison, but she swallowed it all. For the first time in months, the burning stopped. The bracelet went cold. The voice went silent. Amara gasped, touching her wrist in disbelief. It is gone, she whispered. I can feel myself again. Mama Nina nodded. But only for tonight. By tomorrow, Unio will break through again. You must use this time wisely. Amara's jaw tightened. Then I will confront Okonkwo. I will end this. Mama Nina looked at her with worry. He will be waiting for you. He knows you are coming. Amara stood up, her eyes fierce. Let him wait. But as she stepped outside, she saw something that made her heart stop. Okonkwo was already standing at the edge of the forest, staff in hand, smiling. Come, Amara, he called. It is time. Amara walked to the forbidden shrine, a place the elders had warned children never to go. Okonkwo led the way, his staff chiming softly. Inside, the walls were covered in ancient carvings. Amara read them slowly, her heart sinking. The carvings told a story. Centuries ago, a sorcerer named Okonkwo bound Unio to his bloodline, using it to extend his life by feeding on others. The ritual required a final sacrifice. A pure soul, willingly broken, completely consumed. And that soul would become Unio's eternal vessel, giving the sorcerer immortal power. Amara realized the horrible truth. Okonkwo had planned this from the beginning. Her mother's sickness. The bracelet. The shame. Everything. You were always meant to be mine, Okonkwo said, stepping closer. Your bloodline was marked generations ago. Your father escaped my ancestor. But you will not. Amara felt the herb's power fading. The bracelet began to burn again. Unio was waking up. Unio's voice returned, stronger than ever. "Surrender," it whispered. "Surrender, and I will give you power. You will never be weak again. Never be shamed again. You will control men, not the other way around." Amara hesitated. The offer was tempting. After everything she had suffered, the idea of having power, of never being helpless again, pulled at her heart. Okonkwo saw her hesitation and smiled. "Accept it, Amara. Become the vessel. Together, we will rule this land." Amara's hand reached toward the bracelet, her mind clouded. But just as her fingers touched it, the shrine door burst open. Mama Nina stumbled in, her face filled with urgency. "Amara, stop," she shouted. "There is something you do not know. Something Okonkwo has hidden from you." Amara froze. Mama Nina looked at her with tears in her eyes. "Your father did not just escape. He was chosen, just like you. And when he refused, Okonkwo's ancestor cursed his bloodline. Your mother's sickness was not natural. It was the curse, waiting to claim you from birth." Amara's world shattered. "My mother, the sickness, it was all him?" Okonkwo laughed coldly. "Of course. I made her sick so you would come to me. I gave you the bracelet knowing you would do anything to save her. Every step you took, I planned. Every shame you suffered, I orchestrated. You were always mine, Amara. From the moment you were born." Rage exploded in Amara's chest. "You destroyed my life. You made me a disgrace. You made me hurt people." Okonkwo shrugged. "It was necessary. The ritual requires complete emotional breakdown. Only then can Unio fully merge with you." Amara looked down at the bracelet, her hands shaking. Mama Nina stepped closer. "The men you were forced to touch, their life force is stored in the calabash. If you destroy it, you destroy Unio's anchor. But it will hurt you too." Amara did not hesitate. "I do not care." She turned toward the calabash hidden in the corner of the shrine. Amara grabbed the calabash before Okonkwo could stop her. Unio screamed inside her mind, clawing at her soul, trying to take control. But Amara held on. With all her strength, she lifted the calabash high and smashed it on the ground. The shrine exploded with light. Spirits burst free, the souls of every man Unio had drained. They swirled around the room like wind and fire, screaming in rage. They surrounded Okonkwo, tearing at him, pulling him down. Okonkwo shouted in terror, his body writhing as the spirits took their revenge. But the worst pain was Amara's. Unio was being ripped from her body. She screamed, feeling her soul being torn apart. The bracelet shattered on her wrist, cutting deep into her skin. Blood poured from the wound. The shrine began to collapse, stones falling from the walls. Mama Nina grabbed Amara and dragged her toward the exit. Behind them, Okonkwo's screams faded into silence. The shrine fell into ruins. And Unio's voice was gone. At dawn, Amara emerged from the forest, weak and bloodied but alive. Mama Nina helped her walk back to the village. The elders and villagers gathered, staring in shock. Amara's wrist was scarred where the bracelet had been, but it was free. She stood before them, her voice hoarse but steady. "I know what you think of me. I know you called me shameful, cursed, wicked. But I was never those things by choice. I was chained by a spirit I did not summon, controlled by a sorcerer I trusted. Every man I touched because I was forced. Every disgrace I carried to survive. If only you knew that some battles are invisible. Some chains cannot be seen. And some people suffer not because they are weak, but because they are strong enough to survive what would have killed others." The village was silent. Slowly, one by one, the elders knelt. The women wept. The men bowed their heads in shame. Amara whispered, tears streaming down her face. "If only you knew." And the village finally understood. Not every disgrace is a choice. some are the price of survival.